is Georgia Graham. I am the owner and director of Empowering Financial Solutions, a small business advisory firm, and a co-owner of Financially Fit Women, a business aimed at improving the financial literacy of women worldwide. Today, I want to share with you my tips on how to be perfect. I've put together a checklist of what should be accomplished starting from the young age of 18 in order to ensure you will be successful in your career and life. 1. Make sure your ATAR or ENTER score is in the 90s. Get into a top university on a scholarship, that would be preferable. Graduate university with distinction, build a successful career starting from a young age, work your way to a management position before the age of 30, meet the perfect partner, buy a house in a good suburb, get married, have 2 children, and then live happily ever after. Sounds simple, right? Obviously, I'm joking, but in all seriousness, I spent my teenage years and early 20s believing that life was a series of boxes that must be ticked. Just like the list I've put together here. I must excel at school. I must compete at the highest level in all extracurricular activities. I must make myself desirable enough that someone would fall in love with me. I must find the perfect career, the perfect job, marry, and have 2 children. My path was set based on what I assumed would impress others, and I would not dare deviate from this. I convinced myself that the ultimate failure was for someone to look at me and think I was achieving nearly what was expected. I had to exceed expectations in order to meet my distorted definition of success. I became so hungry for the kind of praise that only came when people were genuinely shocked by my abilities and achievements. And it seemed like this hunger for external validation was the perfect fuel for my determination. So what I have learnt over a particularly difficult 10 years was that my unwavering perfectionism was not only limiting, but it was also incredibly damaging to my self-worth. It landed me in an abusive marriage that I was too scared to leave. I was miserable in my career and without any true connection. I lived my life connecting with others from a place of lack and scarcity. I needed external validation in order to feel worthy. And in the process, I had completely lost sight of my authenticity. It is very easy to become disconnected from both our internal and our external worlds when we aren't living authentically. So at that ripe old age of 30, you might be wondering what I actually have to contribute to something on this topic. And the answer is probably not a great deal other than telling you about all the mistakes I've made. I did tick most of the things off my list, but somehow I was still miserable. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea why I felt so unfulfilled, and I was pretty sure success was meant to feel a whole lot better than it did. I spent so many years putting an unending amount of pressure on myself to be perfect. It led me to become competitive, jealous, insecure, and someone who sought connection as a means for fulfilling my need for external validation. Chasing perfection is like climbing a ladder where the top is constantly just out of reach. You never feel truly fulfilled or satisfied. By trying to be perfect, I was attempting to protect myself from rejection. And in doing so, I completely rejected myself. Fast forward a few years, my marriage ended very badly. I found myself single at 20 weeks pregnant, having lost 60% of my financial assets and having to move back in with my parents. This shame spiral was pretty intense. I was stripped back completely. The careful facade that I had spent years building came tumbling down along with my checklist. I have spent the last 3 years rebuilding, and I'm actually so grateful that I got the opportunity to do this, as I now do things very differently. About a year ago, I found myself on my first Ozmum retreat in beautiful Mission Beach. I felt like a total fraud showing up here. I was not a business owner, nor had I ever had the courage to be one. About the only box that I did tick was that I was a mum. The story goes that I was seriously lacking connection. I was lonely, I didn't have many like-minded female friends, and I was Googling women's networking events. I found the Ozmum website, saw the retreat, and I said to my partner, this is going on my vision board. I want to be there in 3 years' time. I printed it out and I stuck it up on the board. My birthday was 2 months later, and my beautiful partner presented me with a ticket and flights to the retreat. While I was very excited, I also almost threw up. I obviously tried to talk myself and him out of having to go. I don't have a business. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know any of the women. They're going to think I'm a fraud. Luckily, I still went. And to say it was life-changing is a total understatement. The seed for my business that I now run was planted. Trust me, this isn't an ad for Ozmum, and Peace and Katie do not know that I'm talking about this. But I found true connection while I was there. I found women who were willing to support me, to hold space for me, to cheer me on no matter what. These women at a second retreat that I went to in December 22 helped me to name my business. They helped me to design my logo, and they cried with me as they read the first draft of my chapter in Women Leading the Way. One of them is now even my business partner. I have learned to do things very differently now, without judgment, without rigid expectation. I have learned that while talking about my story and the lessons I've learned is totally outside my comfort zone, and that societal programming tells me that it is self-important to do so, there may be someone with a wound in the shape of my words. If what I talk about could help just one woman, then I would be proud. And this is how I now view leadership. This methodology has even grown with me into the way I do business. As a small business advisor, the mainly female business owners that I work with, I want them to understand their finances. I don't like just doing it for them. This is why I chose the name Empowering Financial Solutions. My mission with this business is to teach entrepreneurs and small business owners to confidently run their businesses. It makes me so sad when I start working with a client and I ask them about their goals for their business, what success looks like to them, and what sort of lifestyle they want to lead. Often they look at me like I've got two heads. I'm usually told, oh, I don't really know, my accountant deals with that, only to find out that potentially their accountant had not dealt with it. This makes me sad and frustrated. Ultimately, as business owners, the responsibility falls onto our shoulders, so we need to understand and be aware of our obligations, and we also need to set our own goals. Financially Fit Women, the wonderful business that I get to run with Amanda Thompson, has the same ideals. Teaching women to understand their finances empowers them to live a more authentic life aligned with their goals and their purpose. Our aim is to take this business global using our online programs because we firmly believe that financial literacy can be life-changing, and we have heard many stories of how. If I even use myself as an example, becoming a single mum at 20 weeks pregnant, about to leave the workforce and go on maternity leave, had I not had 10 years of study as an accountant behind me, I would have been in a far worse situation. I was lucky I had the financial literacy and also the courage around finances to get back on my feet. Many women may end up having to figure out how to provide for their families out of sheer necessity. We want to encourage them to get on the front foot. In a similar way to it being our responsibility as business owners to understand our finances, even if we are not completing the day-to-day tasks, it is our responsibility as mothers to be financially fit for our children. We need to shake up those societal expectations that it is not our role and ensure we are financially literate and that our children grow up understanding money. So ultimately, what I believe I can contribute to these sorts of discussions is for each of us to question what really drives us. Are you intrinsically or extrinsically motivated? Are you letting perfectionism dictate how you operate your business, or maybe how you parent? Are you truly connected to who you are? Connection to self is the most important form of connection. Are you judgmental? Because the more you judge others, the more likely you are to judge yourself harshly. Remember, we all have the power to choose how we view ourselves and others. I encourage you to review the labels you attribute to yourself. Do you feel that they actually align with who you are? Question the way things have always been done. There may be some hidden gold there. Finally, I wanted to leave you with two powerful quotes that I love and I live by. The first is from Rupi Kaur. I actually began my chapter in Women Leading the Way with this one. I am not a victim of my life. What I went through pulled a warrior out of me, and it is my greatest honour to be her. The second is from Dr. Tara Rai Trent, who I was lucky enough to meet recently. Thank you again, Peace and Katie. I am not a victim. I am a part of the solution. Thank you.